Hello everyone, this is Marianne from Revealing Light Tarot. How are we all today? Wherever you are in the world when you're watching, a huge shout out to you. I wanted to do something a little bit different today. I wanted to first of all pay tribute to the passing of the Vietnamese Buddhist monk, peace activist, Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, who passed away at 95 years of age, I think in New York. Before I describe him, well, I don't really need to because I'm going to leave this to the Dalai Lama. Now, the Dalai Lama released a statement calling really in tribute of who he described as my friend and spiritual brother. So this probably tells you all about the monk that you need to know and how he lived his life and what he was dedicated to. In his peaceful opposition to the Vietnam War, his support for Martin Luther King, and most of all his dedication to sharing with others not only how mindfulness and compassion contribute to inner peace, but also how individuals cultivating peace of mind contribute to genuine world peace. The Venerable lived a truly meaningful life. So in that inactivism, in that mindfulness, in that contemplation, in that steady support of peacefulness, the Dalai Lama is saying that this monk contributed to world peace. And I think that's worth contemplating on as we see this activation by Russia on the border of Ukraine. I'm not going to look at that today. What I want to do is really look at the fear and worry that is present currently. If you're like me, if you're not like me, if you believe something different to me, the commonality here is a worry because of the pandemic. It has unleashed a whole lot of things within our society that we're currently grappling with. But I want to look at Thich Nhat Hanh's, one of his quotes that I think is really apt today. And that is, fear keeps us focused on the past or worried about the future. And if we break that down, when we look at fear, so keeps us focused on the past or worried about the future, what that means is we're not living in the present. And so years and years ago, I came across this pack of cards before I even got onto YouTube, and that is the Tao. It looks at the flow, being in harmony with the flow. And so I went through a stage where I would use these cards quite often. I don't know if they're still available. They're by Timothy Freke, and they're simply titled Tao, which is the way of harmony, the way of peace, the way of being in the flow. So I want to, first of all, pull from these cards, and then I want to look at how the pandemic, given that we're going to cast a very wide net here between everyone, how the pandemic has changed our society and why did that need to occur, and how do we, stay in the flow. I'm hearing from a lot of you, you're tired of the extremism, you're tired of the pandemic, and there's that overriding feeling of just being exhausted. So maybe this video can help us look at what we need to do to restore, because it is a restoration of our harmony. So let's pull from the Tao deck, forgive my pronunciation, of Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu. So we have here, the best rule of conduct is to laugh at everything. And this is why Buddhism gives you such a good perspective, because we are reminded not to take that which is flowing away from us, given that the river is ever flowing, and that we have the past, present, and future. At some point, the present becomes the past. Not to dwell too much on the negative, that there is a place for laughter, levity, and joy. Okay. What else? Okay, so what I'm seeing, I asked Thich Nhat Hanh what he wanted to bring forward. This isn't a channeling. I don't do that when someone has recently passed, but I will rely on my clairvoyance. And we are being presented with hands, and within those hands is the world. So we have here the acceptable and the unacceptable are both acceptable. The acceptable and the unacceptable are both acceptable. These aren't quick messages. These are for you to think about. So we have the best rule of conduct is to laugh at everything, and the acceptable and the unacceptable are both acceptable. Because if you are in harmony with Tao, then you are not attached to any outcome at all. And you will see the Dalai Lama laugh a lot. And the best rule of conduct is to laugh at everything. Can you say that's not right? Can you say that that is not the best rule of conduct? Genuine, joyful laughter. Smiling. The acceptable and the unacceptable are both acceptable. I don't believe it. Thank you, Spirit. One of the, when I first got this pack, I was working very, 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 very long hours in managing a team and being on call, and I was just exhausted. And when I bought this, one of the first cards I pulled was this one, and it made a profound impact on me. When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep. So here are our three messages. The best rule of conduct is laughter. The acceptable and the unacceptable are both acceptable. If you think of the present and what we're creating, staying in the present, not being attached to outcomes, not making those judgments. And by Lao Tzu, when hungry, eat, and when tired, sleep. When hungry, eat, when tired, sleep. When I saw that card, I thought it really is that simple. All right, let's see what's on the bottom of the pack. This came up when I was shuffling to begin with. Live your own life, not the life that others say you should. Live your own life, not the life others say you should. So there's four really good. I'll see if I can take a cover picture and we'll put that on the cover of this video if we can, because they do warrant some fairly deep contemplation. I could go on. Flow around obstacles, don't confront them. All right, let me just take this photo for the cover and then we'll move into the tarot. I'm feeling better already, really, for doing this reading. That's the one thing that occurs when I read. I actually derive a healing from the readings myself. Okay, let's look at how has the pandemic changed our society, or is changing our society. Now I'm using my Aquarian Tarot for those that follow my tarot decks, and also the Rider-Waite Centenary Edition, I think it is. Okay, so I'm just going to go on the split, the Seven of Swords, which is this energy of things being taken away, or even a perception of things being taken away, of deceit. But I do feel we have to look inside to understand how we may be taking away from ourselves. Five of Cups, what we are focusing on and not what we should be turning around and focusing on. Perhaps that is, again, something to be contemplated, the message that we need to hear today. How is the pandemic changing our society? How is pandemic changing our society? I'm getting a lot of images of simplicity. Okay, the Empress. So we have the Abundance card, something that comes to fruition in time. The Queen of Pentacles. Stability, domestic stability. Do we have enough? What is enough? Are we learning the lessons? The Devil card, toxicity. Having to move through the darkness to the light. There is a lot here around the way we put a value, so much value on the money. And I'm reminded that the Pentacles in the Tarot don't necessarily also mean money, although they can. They can mean earth energy. And when we move into earth energy, we move into the flow, because we are beings of this earth. We are a life form on this earth. We're not divorced from it. When we look at the animals, plants, rocks, landscapes, environments, air, sky around us, sun, everything that makes up the composition of the earth, we are part of that. We are earth, the children of the earth. We are just as important and unimportant in a way as we might value, say, a rock in the scheme of things. And I do like rocks, by the way. I often will look at rocky outcrops and look at the signs that nature is trying to give us, the story of the landscape. That is something that I learnt from our Aboriginal brothers and sisters, that the landscape speaks to us, that a tree that is perhaps growing in the shade of other trees will bend and grow toward the sun and the sky. And I learnt about adaptation from looking at that, the signs of the landscape. When a landscape is dying through man-made human activity, is so very, very sad. And you can feel the sadness of that. The Empress and the Queen of Pentacles. What do we need? How much is enough? The Moon card. Things emerging. Things coming from underneath that murky, dark pond to see the light of day. What are those shadow patterns that we need to acknowledge and move away from, to walk away from those things that aren't serving us anymore? The power of the emotions here, the power of the phases of the moon, the moonlight, the illumination of the moonlight. So it's all that. The emotions. Both a cleansing here and also an illumination, a healing illumination. In the past, how is it changing our society? We can see who we align ourselves with and why. And we will ultimately see the futility of not accepting of not accepting things that we don't necessarily resonate or believe in, being one-eyed, for example. We'll see the futility of that, and there will be many examples to show us that. The Five of Swords in the sky. This is straight out abuse, sabotage, the violence in society. We see that through the polarization and the, no better place to see the Five of Swords than get onto Facebook and some of those pandemic posts and feeds, and you'll see the Five of Swords, whether it's dressed up in however it's dressed up. The immediate future is the World, the World card. We are ending, we keep saying, ending old cycles. The pandemic, in a way, came to change, came to bring change, came to push us forward, for us to evolve. No one said evolution was going to be easy. It's not. Evolution breaks through the rock. In the here and now, it's the speed, the Eight of Wands. It's the speed of things that has us all worried. Things is the speed of change, the pace of change. We keep hearing this saying, can we just go back to normal? Well, what is normal? It's in the past. We go back to that quote again on fear. Fear keeps us focused on the past or worried about the future. What is normal? What are we trying to create here? If we stay within the flow, we will know what future we are trying to create. Strength card. The Strength card. We're ultimately becoming stronger as we evolve. In the hopes and fears, the Queen of Swords she's pretty awesome with that Ace of Swords that she's holding, the truth. But we fear the truth, but we also hope for it at the same time. I'm drawn to her eyes, which are differently painted. I'm not sure if the artist meant that or not. But there is a steely gaze, but yet the other eye is softened, questioning. The Knight of Swords, again, taking action on what is the undeniable truth. There are some undeniable truths. Absolutely there are. When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep. There are no grey areas. The Nine of Pentacles, independence, having all we need. Again, Pentacles is not the money. In this reading, it is about understanding that when we have that undeniable truth, we have independence and we have all we need. And I am feeling that very strongly. I'm feeling that energy. Maybe it is the Zen energy. Maybe it's a Buddhist way of looking at things. I'm just feeling it. It stops and encompasses and flows and goes everywhere. That undeniable truth. There is no doubt about the undeniable truth. And we do finish with the Knight of Cups. What are we offering? What are we offering? To me, the Knight of Cups, one of the most important aspects of the Knight of Cups is compassion. Sometimes I do stop with those that are totally disagreeable. And I understand why they're being totally disagreeable. And so I think there's some lessons here around compassion. The base of the pack is toxicity, the devil card having to transform that which we are chained to. That which we are chained to, and there is no way around it. The Hierophant card is the word of spirit, our highest selves. We are being called upon at the very spiritual, both at the spiritual level and at the through the practical level, to transform and change. What are we? One of the things we're changing is whatever we are attached to, whatever we are addicted to, whatever we are chained to. And the boundaries, the Nine of Wands, the boundaries, putting boundaries up, because, boundaries, that you don't just put the boundary up and then leave it go. You have to maintain that. You have to maintain them. Maintain against slipping back. No one said that life was going to be a bed of roses. Anything worthwhile takes discipline, and you'll see that in the Buddhist tradition. Takes discipline. Everything is up for review. This is the underlying energy. Everything is up for review, and I think political leaders who don't understand that universal perspective understand nothing much at all. Okay, so the best counsel for those that are watching this reading. I was called upon to do this reading. I felt it was the thing to do. How do we restore? The how to. How do we restore? And I am going back to those first messages there. Okay, let's see. Anything further that Spirit wants to add? Is there anything further that Spirit wants to add on this restoration way of living, restoring health and well-being? How do we do that? Well, we stop worrying, we stop fearing. And this is really coming back to Thich Nhat Hanh's quote around fear. Fear causes us to focus in on the past and worry about the future. This person isn't living in the present because they can't see or experience anything in the present. Look at things in another way. Pause, stop. Look at things in another way. But the balancing of the scales is occurring. And that's what we're seeing. That's the Knight of Swords. Far out. Far out. Oh dear. We will begin. We will go forward again. That's the underlying message. In a way, let the truth come forward. Don't fear it. Try and look at things in another way. Try and gain that higher perspective. Both the acceptable and the unacceptable is acceptable. We will move forward. I'm not going to put a definition of what that is yet, but we do. Page of Rods. We have enough information. This is a droplet in a huge scheme, in a vastness. But we do get enough information to take those steps forward again. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for tuning in. I hope that makes you pause for a minute away from the din, the loudness of the politics and the pandemic, and the restoration that is needed. I hope that makes you pause and gives you something, nourishes you in some way, fills you up in some way, doesn't detract or take away from you. Thank you for tuning in, and once again, namaste, and just pausing for a minute for that Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, who was supporting peace, opposing in his gentle way the Vietnam War, supporting Martin Luther King in America, against racism and everything that means, and through mindfulness and in passive, yin and yang, balanced, passive mindfulness, working toward world peace. Okay, thank you for tuning in.